Thanks for tuning into Proline TV as we talk, you guessed it, NASCAR. And this week, we venture into the road course arena in Texas, Circuit of the Americas. Let's welcome in our NASCAR and F1 analyst, CJ Raduna of RotorWire.com to the program. And CJ, yes, I say F1 because we're only about, a week away, 2 weeks away from previewing the season?
We are a week away from previewing the season, 2 weeks away from getting it started. They actually started their testing for the preseason today. So they'll be doing that for the next couple of days, which will actually give us something to talk about before we actually head into the first race of 2025.
I was checking out one of the videos from Eric Estep, and, I noticed the title of his video was Why the Outrage? And, so I was intrigued to find out whether or not that was hey, why the outrage? Or was it more like, why the outrage? I didn't know exactly. That's why you always have to check what the person, his inflection is. You can't get inflections on text. So I went ahead and went on there, and then I actually decided, I had an idea. I don't think we've ever talked about this before. And so I went ahead and texted it in his comment section myself right here. And I said this. I said, why don't they just put the yellow out at certain parts of the track where the biggest incidents are, and let the rest of the field where there is no issue stay on the green? First of all, before we get into all the responses and stuff, is that like a silly statement by me? Because again, I'm not no expert. I don't know what goes on there. It just seems like, you got these markers, you got these light markers all around the track. So why does every marker have to be the same color? If there's a problem in one area of the track, well, why can't that part of the track say yellow? So there won't be anybody that will try to drive faster because it still says green and they're looking for extra points, and it might cause even a bigger incident. Well, no, we've got yellow there. But all the way up there where nothing's going on, it's green. That's okay. Why can't they do that?
I don't think that's outlandish. It's done on road courses. You can have
it is. Okay, that's right. Yes.
IndyCar, Formula One all the time, where you have a local yellow where a car is spun off or a car is stranded and safety vehicles come out to get it. The racing continues everywhere else on the course except for that one area on the track where it's yellow. The reason why they don't do it at ovals and super speedways is just the fact that the speeds are higher. Probably more contained area, less runoff rooms, so maybe a little bit more danger to safety workers and things like that. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think I said as we were talking about this before we came on air was that it seemed like most of the field was past it anyway by the time that the caution went out. And I want to say we've had like 5 different race endings called by NASCAR 5 different ways in 2 weeks or a week and a half of racing. And it's just, it's so inconsistent. It's infuriating. And I'm not taking away anything from anybody that won that race. And Christopher Bell certainly deserved to win the race, but why are you calling it before they even hit turn 3? Whereas literally 5 days ago, you made a point of letting them race back to the line under the exact same situation. And Hocevar even said afterward, I thought we were racing to the line. Like, the drivers are confused. How can you possibly compete at that most critical point in a race if you're in the car, not knowing what NASCAR is going to do? It's infuriating as a fan. It's even more confusing as a fan. I can't imagine how the drivers and teams feel. And I think arguably the worst thing for me, number one, we've been talking about NASCAR's inconsistency forever, but the refusal, absolute downright refusal of anyone on the TV to call that out as being a potential problem or a question is just asinine. Like, grow a pair and call out the BS that you're seeing on the track. That will make the racing and your television much more interesting. But every single one of them refused to do it. Oh, it was so fantastic and blah, 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 blah. It's like they completely whitewashed this giant controversy. So I'm glad to see that Eric put something out there. I'm glad to see that the drivers and teams were livid about it. They have absolutely every right to be. It's like the Major League Baseball saying 2 outs on the bottom of the 9th inning. Oh, yep, we're done because that person hit a foul ball. Like, what? Like, where did that even come from?
Yeah.
And then going the next day on a doubleheader and calling it differently. It's just ridiculous. NASCAR's got to get their act together. They need some consistency in their officiating.
Some of Eric's, some of his viewers replied to my suggestion, and let's see what they had to say. I don't know. Yes, just Gary Snell says, yes, they already have scoring loops. NASCAR puts out the yellow in a section and all sections ahead are green. I'm not sure what he's talking about. What is he talking about?
I think he's agreeing with you. When caution falls on an oval, it's based on...
he's basically agreeing, and this is the way it should be. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
I think in a way he's agreeing with you in that they've got the timing loops. They should be able to do so. So why not?
All right, cool. Well, excellent. And me and Gary are on the same page. That's awesome. Let's see.
I think most sane people would be on the same page, but maybe that's too much to ask.
Bubba Tex 5731, just a counterpoint to your unsafe talk on the green finish. Okay, with the finish under yellow, bigger teams can just crash a car when their teammates get in front on the last lap. And with the new garage rule, you can fix as much of a remedy car as to drive, then sacrifice for the win. Crossing the line is an integral part of the race. I don't understand what he's talking about.
I think he's calling up the conspiracy theory. So I don't know that he's necessarily disagreeing. I think he's maybe just playing a little bit of devil's advocate, where if you've got Hendrick, where, 4 teammates and, Kyle Larson happens to be ahead, whereas William Byron's stuck deep in the field on the last lap, why not intentionally crash to bring out a caution? And therefore Kyle Larson wins the race for your team. We saw that a little bit. Obviously, we talked about that with Martinsville last year in disrupting the order of the finish.
Oh, yeah.
There are certainly rules against that NASCAR has. Maybe it becomes a little bit more difficult to police on an oval where things happen extremely fast. It's a valid counterpoint. But again, the technology is there. We do it on road courses. I think some of the bigger ovals, I think there's room for that, certainly on the last lap for, turns 3 and 4 when the accident's coming off of turn 2 and everybody's already passed it.
Yeah. And so... basically, I know one of the things, and I'm looking for it where it is. Basically, one of the replies I had was, well, I mean, just like you said, just like what happened in Martinsville, what did they say afterwards? They're going to police it, right?
Yep.
Well, that was my response here too, is if they end up, because they're going to think about that too, and say, well, it's just so you know, if anybody comes up with any shenanigans and they want to wreck while they're cars out in front and they got the lead, well, we're going to keep an eye on that. And if it happens, then you're in big trouble. That's how you would take care of that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Again, no different than any other track.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be talking about this, though, if NASCAR just called 2 races back to back the same way. And the fact that they can't, and they've been doing this for how many years, is just infuriating.
Yeah, I don't understand why. That's the thing. I think nobody understands why. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not good at all. And it's one of these things where I tell you what, if all NASCAR had was super speedway racing, boy, would they be in serious trouble right now, because fans would not put up with this on an every week basis.
Absolutely.
So they're just lucky that it's now, who knows, maybe we'll get some sort of weird road course finish this week where it'll be under yellow But like you said, I mean, it's road coursing, so they do. Do they judge it differently in NASCAR too, as far as if the caution comes out? Can it be green in another part of the track, or is that only in other series on a road
They can
course?
absolutely do that. There are sections of a road course, just like there are sections
Okay.
within an oval. So I think NASCAR should embrace the ability to go and caution on certain turns and only those turns. I think they've done it in the past, and it would be wild to me. I know that Circuit of the Americas is shorter this year. They changed the track layout, but
Okay.
that should not change necessarily the fact that if you've got a crash in turn one on the last lap, that the next 12 or 13 or 14, however many corners that are left on the lap, are unsafe to race because of that, which is complete BS.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll find out if
We'll
we
see.
get any drama on Sunday. So
We will see.
all right. So we've got Texas, and this is one of, what do we have? 5 road course races this year because of Mexico?
Yeah, 5 road course races, 5 natural terrain road course races, and I think the 6th would be the street course, Chicago.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. Look, we're all going to be interested to see how Mexico goes. Mexico from the other series. Do you think it's going to go well? Do you think it's not the right track?
I think it's a fine track. It's got a very long
for Cup cars. You think it'll be fine?
Cup cars, I think so. Yeah, I think the race into turn 1 is going to be extremely interesting, and watching the guys throw the cars around the S's until they get to the back straight is going to be really interesting as well. So I think it'll produce some good racing. I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to seeing is in Mexico City is NASCAR cars, Cup cars are naturally aspirated. The air is very thin. Mexico City is very high up in the mountains. So how much power and how are those teams going to be able to deal with that? Both getting air into the engines to make max power, but then also air into things like the brakes for cooling and things like that. Just going to be a really interesting race weekend. And I think that the track is well suited to be able to give a good race overall. I think there'll be plenty of passing and close racing.
Okay. All right. So we've been to Texas. We've done this 4 times. Chevy's won 3. Toyota's got 1 win. So Ford has been shut out so far. All 4 winners came from the top 8 rows. That's the top 16. We've had 3 straight winners from the top 4 rows. That's the top 8. We've also had 2 winners on the front row and 1 pole sitter. But with only 4 races, there's not a whole lot of trends to go on. So we really have to just take a look at the other road course races and the history of these drivers on road courses. So let's pop up the current odds right now and see what we got. All right. So big surprise. Shane Van Gisbergen is the favorite again. They're doing this stuff again. So I just look, I hope he goes down to 2-1 again or something crazy because that'll open things up down here. All right. So, but what is this? I mean, didn't we just dealt with this guy last year and his crazy odds? And now, I mean, it's on the first, he's the second choice, and I've never heard of the guy in my life. Now, I know I'm not an analyst like you, and you know who all these guys are, but he's obviously never driven in the Cup Series. And for some reason, he's the second choice to win his first ever Cup race. I don't care where it is. What is this? Who is this guy?
So just to make this even more interesting for you, he's the second choice to win his very first Cup race
Yeah.
at a track that Shane Van Gisbergen finished 3rd in when he was driving in the Supercar series before he came to the exact same layout. As I said, this is a different layout than we saw the first 4 times going Dakota. Shane Van Gisbergen has driven on this layout before, and by the way, he finished 3rd. So everybody who thinks that Shane Van Gisbergen is great on the road courses, which he absolutely is, makes this Connor Zilisch thing seem a little bit even more of a stretch. And not to say that Connor's not great and accomplished, because he did win on a road course in his first Xfinity start, but we all know that the series competition between Xfinity and Cup is vastly different. The guys being in these cars every single week makes a big difference. And yeah, Connor grew up road racing. He's done a lot of different series where he's won races both on ovals and road courses. But the expectation of somebody as young and inexperienced in the Cup series to come in his very first race and be the second choice favorite, I think people are wishing for another SVG at Chicago type of moment. I just don't think it's going to happen here.
So the changes they're making to the track, is it going to be such that it will favor or not favor any particular drivers that you're aware of based on how other drivers have performed at other road courses?
I think it will, if it's going to favor anyone, it's going to favor those drivers who are really good at throwing these cars around, because the section of the track that they are cutting out is the long backstretch back to the hairpin before they come back.
The boring part.
Yeah, the boring part.
Okay.
So if you get off of that last corner and onto that long back straight, you have the opportunity to nose somebody out of the way or outbrake them. Whereas here, the track's just going to be, this year, the track's just going to be a little bit more compact, a little bit less ability to get a long run on that back straight because it's not going to be there. Overall lap time is going to be shortened by about a minute, whereas I think it was 3 minutes a lap in the 4 races prior. So I think it's a good move. So if anybody, I think it favors the guys that are already good on road courses, like an SV, like a Tyler Reddick and some of the others.
All right. So let's get to, all right. Well, here's the deal with Van Gisbergen if you're thinking of taking him. And I'm pretty positive, because I know this for a fact, that ever since his win, because he won the second race at Chicago.
He won the very first race at Chicago.
The very first race at Chicago. Yeah. Okay. So ever since then, he has been pretty much the favorite on all these other road courses. And we have told you each time after that not to take him, to save your money. It's too low. And we've been right every time. Now, I'm going to keep saying that until he wins another one of these races, as long, depending where his odds are. Okay. He is on the cutoff here, 5-1. Maybe he's lucky Connor Zilic is around to keep his odds low, but I'm not too bad at 5-1. Right. It's when you get lower than that you're nuts putting any money on any driver in the NASCAR series anytime. Okay. Just keep this in mind. That was a street race. Okay. Let's just start from there. On a regular road course, the favorite of this race has never won in the Cup Series. 0. He's raced 3 road course races in the Cup Series. He raced here last year, and he was 20th from the 12th position. Never led a lap. Now, maybe if he qualifies better, well, that'll be a good thing. And you'll go, oh, well, he looks a lot better than he did last year. And that's definitely a theme that we're going to have as we go through here. But come on. I mean, it's bad enough that, look, or in our respect as handicappers, it's good enough. Look, it's good that these 2 guys that have never won on the Cup Series before in a road course are the favorites. And that means that I get to choose from all the other Cup drivers with better odds. So I'm all for it. Good. That's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Do you remember what the I'm trying to see if I can take a look. Let me see what the odds were last year. I think I might have it here.
I bet you it was below 5-1.
Let's see if I do have it or not. Texas. Here it is, the road course. No. Well, again, to start the race. Now, I don't know what it went down to. And remember, this was the first race, right, of last year. First road course race.
Yes.
So it was still early in his development as a road course driver. He was the 3rd choice at 9-1 to start the week when we did the show. I have no idea. I don't remember what it went down to. Reddick was the favorite at 4-1, and Elliott was the second choice at 7-1. And might I say, deservedly so. Okay. So those odds look good. That's the way it probably should have been. And William Byron actually wound up winning the race. Let's see, what was Byron's odds? He was actually 10-1. So, see, you get William Byron at 10-1. Or this year, it's not, as you can see here on the list. Now he's 7-1. But hey, if these guys aren't where they are, sucking up all the odds, then Byron and Reddick are down to here. So you're getting some extra points here, and that's going to help us. All right, so Reddick and Byron are, in my opinion, much better choices to go with. I mean, Reddick, if you just look at him, he was 4-1 last year, as we mentioned. Now he's 7-1. You're getting almost double. Think of that. So at this track, Reddick has a win, 2 top fives, and a 9th. He's been on the pole once. He was on the front row once. Interesting enough, he didn't. His win was from the front row. He led 41 laps a couple of years ago. Reddick only had 1 top 5 last year on the road courses. Even though that happened, he's still considered the best road course driver in the Cup Series we have today. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think absolutely. The only other one you could possibly want to throw in the conversation, and the cars are completely different, would have been a Chase Elliott type of thing. Whereas Elliott's only now just starting to seem like he's getting back up to speed in the new generation of car on road courses. I would put Tyler Reddick's ability on a road course with the current configuration of car on par with Chase Elliott's, maybe a step behind, because Elliott was just so dominant in the old car. But that's the type of road course racer that Reddick is in this type of series. He just gets this car, and on these tracks, he's definitely one to beat.
Yeah, Reddick has not only a win at this track, he also has one at Indy when we used to run at Indy. And he has 13 top 10s out of 20. So that's a really good number, even though last year, again, was not particularly a great year for him, road course riding. Byron, meanwhile, has a win at Watkins Glen and the win here. So let's move on to the next group. So we have Larson, Bell. You mentioned Elliott already. And yeah, Chase is already, as you can see here, now we're starting to even get some little mini bargains. Larson's 9-1. But if there's a road course that I think you just have to avoid with Larson, it's this one until he wins. Now you are getting 9-1, so you could use that to your advantage if you want. But keep in mind, even though he's got a very strong 6 road course wins, none of them have come here. He has a runner-up, but that was on his very first try, and he only led 4 laps. Since then, he has no top 10s. And, that is kind of strange. Do you think the change in the track itself will benefit Larson that much more?
No.
Okay.
No, I would avoid Larson this week, just like you said. His debut at the track in 2021, when it first came on the calendar, he did fine, started on the front row and finished second, like you said, led 4 laps. But after that, he hasn't qualified better than 13th, and he hasn't finished better than 14th. So we're talking about somebody whose average start at this track is roughly 11th, and an average finish of 15.5. So Larson, for me, just isn't one to go with this weekend. I would wait until we get to some of the other road courses.
Okay, but then you got Bell and Elliott at 11-1. Bell was second last year. He was also second at the Roval last year. It's his second top 5 at this racetrack. He's also been involved in a couple of wrecks. He's got 11 top 10s out of 20 on the road courses with the Roval win. Elliott, meanwhile, you're getting him at a bargain at 11-1. And he even had a couple top 5s last year. It wasn't like it was a disastrous year for him on the road courses. We're just so used to him dominating that it didn't look like a great year. But, look, he's got 15 top 5s in 30 road courses with 5 wins. He's got a win here in his very first attempt, even though he only led 5 laps. That's the only time he's ever led laps here. But you're getting 11-1 on Elliott, and you're also getting 11-1 on Bell. I mean, I'm thinking maybe this is where I'm starting with my picks.
I don't think it's a bad place to start. The one thing I'd be nervous about with Christopher Bell is winning back-to-back weeks, of course.
It didn't happen last year, right?
Didn't happen at all last year. So the chances of it happening again, it's going to happen again, but it's going to take some time. I think for me, it depends on where Bell qualifies, because the 2 times that he crashed out of this race, he started 10th or worst. If he starts better than 10th, he generally finishes inside the top 5. So started 7th in 22, finished 3rd, started 4th and last year, finished 2nd. He led 9 laps in last year's race as well. So I think from a fantasy perspective, I would absolutely take Christopher Bell. I'd want to see, again, if I take him for wagering, I'd want to see where his starting position is before I actually go forth and choose, because again, it's just going to be hard to win on back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I wonder how much his odds drop. I guess a lot of it's going to depend on who else is in the top 10, if he's in that top 10, and where in the top 10 is he. I would guess that his odds would drop a few points.
Sure.
So it's up to you. If you want to take the 11, hope that he does get in there. But that's if you're even going to bank on back-to-back. And we said it for right about the halfway point last year and all the rest of the year. We kept referencing back-to-back winners, none so far, none so far, none so far. And every time we said that, we basically said, well, that's why we're not taking that driver. And you just keep doing it until it happens. That's all. And right now we're ahead, just like we're ahead on not taking Van Gisbergen. So that's what you got to do when you're gambling on these types of situations. Okay. You're always looking for bargains as well, and there's just no bargain. There's definitely not a bargain with Van Gisbergen and whoever the hell, I can't even remember his name now. But here, at least you're getting 11-1, and Elliott as well. All right, AJ. Now, I think AJ is also a really good play because 12-1 is a nice number. It's not something crazy. He has a very good history, as we know, on the road courses, and he's got 3 wins: Indy, Roval, Watkins Glen. He was 6th in this race last year. Matter of fact, he was 6th in 3 of the 4 Cup races, road course races last year. 6th. That's not what we want. We want first. But he, even though he's never won here in the Cup Series, he has 2 wins and a runner-up in 4 Xfinity Series races at Texas. And we're getting 12-1.
That's a fantastic bargain for somebody as well known on the road courses as AJ Allmendinger. And by the way, this year he's actually in the car every single week. He's a full-time driver in the series again.
That's a lot better.
Comfortable. Last year when he was doing these one-off races, he was 6th, and yeah, he's got a lot of experience. But it seems like regardless, AJ Allmendinger at this track and on most road courses, always in the mix. And if you're in the top 5, top 10, coming down onto these to the finish on these races, and your name's AJ Allmendinger, I think that's a great place to be, and that's exactly where he's been putting himself in position. So I think Allmendinger at 12 here is a really good choice.
Okay, let's go down here to the next group. Chastain, 14-1. And hey, I think Chastain's a fine play because I like his number. He has a win at Coda already. That was 3 years ago. He led 31 laps from the 16th position, so that's pretty strong. It's his only road course win as well, but that's okay because we're back at Coda. Last year, he has finishes of 4th, 5th, and 7th in road course races. 7th was here, leading 10 laps from the 6th position. So, yeah, I'm getting 14-1. Once again, I think this is a solid play.
Yeah, I think I said this about Suarez last week about Atlanta, but really it's Ross Chastain, where if he has a history of running well at a particular track, you can pretty much bet on him coming back to that track and running well. And it doesn't seem to matter what the difference is in cars and year or where he is in his progression, etc. He's always been good at Circuit of the Americas, 4th, 1st, 4th, and 7th. And it doesn't matter where he started either. He started 20th. He's started inside the top 10, and all of those finishes have been 7th or better. So, and he's led laps. So I think Chastain, like Allmendinger, is another really great choice. I think he's another one that you've got to have in your fantasy lineups as well.
And because of the fact that he has done well, no matter where he has started, you really are better off just taking him now. But look, if you think he's not going to qualify well, like normally, even though he did start 6th last year, you want to take the chance that he starts 12th or 15th. Maybe I don't think it's going to affect the odds, though. I think the only way to affect the odds that way, the wrong way, is if he starts 25th or 30th, and then that's not good. So if you're going to take Chastain, I think you're just better off taking him now, grabbing the 14.
Agreed.
Okay, Gibbs is 18. Gibbs is not the worst idea of, eventually this kid's going to win because he has 2 good finishes here, including 3rd last year from the front row. I don't think he led any laps, though. But just keep in mind, out of the 4 cup races last year on the road courses, the other 3 were not good. This was the only one that was good. So you got to consider that. 18-1. I don't like him here. I think there are other drivers that should be ahead of him. This is the same old thing. We're going with Gibbs, apparently. That's the thing. Once again, I mean, whenever we think of, maybe we should take Gibbs, then I look at the number and I'm like, I'm not getting a bargain here. I mean, I'd rather go with some of the guys behind him. But what do you think?
I think Gibbs is not the best, or not the worst idea, I should say. Started 17th and finished 9th in his first time here. Started on the front row last year, like you said, finished 3rd. He did lead 1 lap. I think, number one, we know he's good on road courses. He's won on them in Xfinity, so we would expect him to be able to step up here in the Cup Series as well. But again, he hasn't yet really stepped up in the Cup race. If he's going to step up, here's a likely place that he could do it. And I'm comfortable with waiting until he actually does that. And maybe when he actually does that, then he starts becoming more of a fixture in the conversations. I agree. I think he's going to win at some point. Question of when, and we'll see. Maybe it'll be this week and we'll be wrong, and then we can start choosing him after that. But I'm still going to hold out. Just like we talked about before, we're ahead from holding out for the time being until things turn around for him. So that's the same play I'm going to take this week with Gibbs.
Okay, so here are some other drivers I'd rather take with better numbers. Just 2 of them right off the bat, Alex Bowman and Kyle Busch. So Bowman, if it wasn't for getting into trouble like some other drivers, like Blaney and Cindric the last few weeks, who knows what Bowman could have done. So here, he's getting 20-1, which is not bad. He's done really well here. All of them have been in the top 10. 3 of them have been in the top 5 with a runner-up. And if you look at it, he only has 3 top 5s in 25 road course races outside of COTA, and 3 of them out of 4 here. So the 3 top 5s at the other racetracks show you that, yeah, he's okay on road course races, but he's really good here. Therefore, I'm definitely taking him this week.
I think this is a great value because if you look at the drivers who have started all 4 races here at this track, Alex Bowman has the 2nd best average finish at 4.3. Who has the 1st best average finish? Ross Chastain at 4.0. And then who has the 3rd best average finish? Tyler Reddick at 5.0. And these, by the way, are the only guys that have 3 top 5s out of the 4 and all 4 top 10 finishes out of the 4. So Chastain, Bowman, Reddick, I think just sorting on the statistics for people that have been there, certainly with a 20-1 number, Alex Bowman's a fantastic choice.
The difference, of course, is that if we want, we can take 2 out of the 3 and take the 2 out of the 3 with the better odds.
Exactly right.
So that you can do that with Bowman and Chastain. All right, and here's Kyle at 22. So he's also getting a good number, and he's been okay here. Top 10s, runner-up a couple of years ago. He's led a few laps, not a ton. Matter of fact, his ninth place finish last year here was the only top 10 on the 4 road course races. But you're talking about someone with 18 career top 5s and 4 wins and 52 races and over 400 laps led on road courses. So we know Kyle was one of the better road course drivers out there. He's been good here. You're getting 22-1. I don't see the problem.
Yeah, I think Kyle Busch is a pretty good mid-pack choice just because of his history on road courses. And, you know, with Richard Childress Racing, he finished second in 2023, his first year with the team on this track, and then came back and started 16th last year and finished 9th. And we know last year was kind of a struggle of a season. Actually, maybe the past 2 seasons have been a struggle for him. And it seems like he's getting back into the groove this year and perhaps stepping up. Just needs a little bit of luck to fall his way. No reason it couldn't come this weekend.
All right. Suarez, Buescher, and Hamlin. Let's see. Suarez, he has some really bad finishes here. Wow. This has not been good for Daniel Suarez. I mean, he's had a couple of moments, but who knows? Well, I mean, look, the reason he led 15 laps a few years ago was he did start second. So I'm assuming that's why, but he didn't end well. And he started 5th a couple of years ago and it didn't end well. So it doesn't matter where he starts. It doesn't end well. So I don't know why anyone would take Daniel Suarez. I mean, the funny thing is look at this. He's just like a couple of points away from Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman. And we just told you what their career records are. And I'm getting like, if you're going to do that, I need 40-1 on Suarez, not 2 points or 3 points. I don't know what that's about. I don't know what they're thinking. There must be something. I'm not getting it. Buescher, on the other hand, well, yeah, even Buescher I'd rather take 10 times over Suarez. I mean, he at least has a couple of top 10s here. And he has the win last year at Watkins Glen. He was 3rd at Sonoma last year, leading 32 laps, and was 8th in this race last year. So he was really good on the road courses last year, and you're getting the same odds that you would get from Daniel Suarez. So the only issue with Buescher would be the negative of a Ford driver not winning here yet, but it's 25-1. So Buescher's even not a bad play at all.
Yeah, avoid Suarez like the plague this week. His best finish at COTA is 24th. His average finish is 28.8. And I think even that's generous, even though math doesn't lie. But yeah, Buescher, keep in mind that Watkins Glen win was no walk in the park either. He went head to head with Shane Van Gisbergen in the closing laps and actually forced SVG into a mistake in order to get into the lead to win that race. So Buescher's got some road racing chops that he's been showing. My only issue with Buescher this week is that he doesn't qualify well here. His average start is 25.5. He's never started better than 20th. However, he does have 2 top 10s, 2 8th place finishes, 23 and 24. Last 2 seasons at this track, his average finish, despite that 25.5 starting spot, is 12.5 though. So I think Buescher's a great choice. Definitely better than Suarez, not as good as Bowman. And we'll talk about Hamlin here in a minute, but I think Hamlin's probably also one to avoid just based on the fact that he's never really done much. He's always been okay. He's been around mid-pack. If you need somebody that's rather expensive for your fantasy rosters that finishes mid-pack, Denny Hamlin's your guy, but I don't think anybody's looking for that. His average finish is 15.5. Average start is 14th, which again proves my point that he just hangs around mid-pack at this track all the time.
Yeah, he has a win. That was at Watkins Glen, but that's it. No top 10s in the 4 road course races last year. I don't think this is the week to take Denny as well. Look, maybe you gamble with Buescher and you wait to see how he qualifies. Maybe that's what you do because you got such a big number that I can't imagine if he qualifies in the top 10 and makes that final round, even if he finishes 8th, 7th, I'll take that, because I don't think his odds will drop that much. I can't imagine they will. Maybe they'll drop to 20-1 or maybe at worst 15. And at least I'm getting still a good driver who has a good qualifying run at 15-1. It may not even be that low.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not sure it would go that low, to be honest with you. again, you're not losing anything with him staying at 25 and taking him now, because again, he starts deep in the field pretty much every single time anyway, but finds a way to work his way back. So if you take him now and he qualifies up inside the top 10, then you're just even more better off than you were before.
Do you remember what his starting positions were last year, like when he won at Watkins Glen?
I don't. I can probably find it relatively quickly.
Yeah, see what you can see there. Well, because again, he had good runs last year on the road courses. I'm not sure, because when he was 8th last year, as you mentioned, here he started 20th. So, and again, that's fine. And if you want a top 10 race, I think they got the odds here for top 10. Is this what the second column is? Oh, top 5 and top 3. Well, forget it. So, do they have a top 10 here? I can't see it. No.
Last year when he won at Watkins Glen, he started 24th.
There you go. Then you're right. I'll just pick him at 25-1 then. So keep the 25-1 and go that route. All right. Excellent. Let's go to our next group. Chase Briscoe. The only thing Chase really has going for him is that he gets to drive Martin Truex's car. And that was that car had much better results in the road courses than Chase did. But I think that's still asking a lot for Chase at 30-1. My boy Ryan here. Let's see if we can move that trophy. Should have been back-to-back trophies, by the way. Let's move Ryan in here. I don't think, like I say every time Ryan's on a road course, I don't think he's a bad long shot. He should be a long shot, but I think he's a good long shot because he's good. He's not great. He's not bad. He's good. He gets into a lot of trouble sometimes because most of the time he'll get into trouble when he starts a little bit further back than you'd like to see him. Or we've seen situations where he's at the front and then, he'll look for points at the end of a stage, and then he restarts in the back, and then boom, he gets in trouble. I've seen it over and over again with him on road courses, constantly getting into trouble. So he's okay. Not saying I would take him because I'd much rather go with some of those other drivers that are only 5 or 6 or 7 point difference. I don't think that's enough for me to go with Blaney over Bowman and Busch and even Buescher. But again, Blaney has been all right. He's got 3 top 12s. He had 3 top 12s on the road courses last year. He's got a Roval win, and he's 50% career-wise in the top 10s on road courses. That's pretty much Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, I think Ryan Blaney is a pretty reliable choice. And if he's in position to win without the problems that you described, he can race for the win. And he's done so. He would put himself in position to win that Roval race, and things happened in front of him. And that's how he got there. So, yeah, I think Blaney is probably a pretty decent long shot. I think for me, out of this bunch, the one that I would be most interested in going with, though, is Austin Cindric. And
he's a major bargain.
Yeah, he hasn't done much specifically at this track, but he's just fantastic on road courses. He almost always leads laps, and he's done that exactly here at Circuit of the Americas, leading 17 laps in his 4 starts. He's never started lower than 11th here. Yeah, he's gotten into some trouble where he's finished 25th and 18th, but he's also finished 8th and 6th in that time as well. And I think we've seen from the first 2 races this year, as we predicted, we expected Cindric to have a better 2025. We've seen that in the first 2 races so far. And here we come to another track that is his bread and butter. Super speedways and road courses are times that you should always be considering Austin Cindric. And if he's at 30-1 here, I would absolutely.
It's a steal.
Yep.
I think it's the biggest steal of the bunch.
I would probably agree with you.
So if you just look at it overall, and you would think, he's been a little bit quieter in the Cup, but he's had 7 top 10s in 16 road course races in the Cup Series. And he was 4th at the Roval last year, but in the Xfinity Series at this track, 3 top 5s out of 4. And more importantly, as you mentioned, his success in the Xfinity Series, that's because he has a Daytona road course win, an Indy road course win, and a Watkins Glen road course win in the Xfinity Series. So this is a steal, no doubt. He's the one that you want to take as soon as possible before those odds drop, especially if he qualifies well, which he normally does. So you're not getting 30-1 after qualifying. I'd be shocked. Okay. Matter of fact, I'd be shocked if it's still 30-1 by the time you're done watching this show. All right. As far as the others here on this list, McDowell, Logano, and Hocevar, look at that big gap. Well, first you got Logano and McDowell. McDowell is and look, between the two of them, they've both had road course wins. Logano has 11 career top fives, and so that's he can do it. He can do road courses, and you're getting 35-1. I have no problem if anybody wants to put a long shot claim on Logano or even McDowell. McDowell doesn't necessarily have a great history here, and really neither does Joey. And maybe that's why their odds are here. But considering they both have good road course resumes, 35-1, those are generous numbers. And McDowell is one of those drivers that never qualifies well here. So that's another one of those things you got to think about, is that if he does qualify well here, well then, hey, maybe Micah McDowell is someone you really want to be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, I'd probably go Logano before I went McDowell. I think probably the biggest benefit to McDowell is he's gotten out of the Ford. So he had steering problems last year in this race. His best finish was 7th. Other than that, he was 13th and 12th. So pretty decent, within touching distance, and he's been pretty good on road courses as well. But I think, like Blaney, teammate Logano, if he can get himself in position to win and avoid trouble, he's going to be one that's absolutely going to be capable of winning. His best finish here was a 3rd when he started 6th. Last year he started 35th, yet still moved forward and finished 11th, and he's led laps 3 out of the 4 times that he's been at this track. So Logano's got a little bit more for me, probably just because he's one of those top drivers that's looking for spot in the playoffs and a championship as well. Not that McDowell isn't, but I think that Logano probably a little bit more hungry.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's why I said at the very beginning, if it wasn't for Zilich or Van Gisbergen in this race, these odds wouldn't be so great, and we're getting a benefit where there are a lot of really bargain possibilities once you start with even maybe Chastain at 14-1, or if you want to start a little bit further down, you can do that. You can start at Bowman at 20-1. And there's like 5 or 6 drivers after 20-1 that could win this race. It would not be a surprise. Okay. So then now you got you got a big gap here. 45 points between 35-1 driver and 80-1 driver. And I think, see, when you get like those 5 or 6 drivers we just talked about that are really good bargains between 20 and 35-1, the problem is the deal is once you get to that next group, like the other long shot group, it's like, forget all those guys, because they're here for a reason. And I've got so many good options at 20 to 35-1, which are good numbers for NASCAR winning races. I don't have to go down here and try to win anything, because looking down here, I don't really see anything that catches my eye where I would go, yeah, I'll probably even throw a buck on them. I think I just save my buck and add the buck or two to some of those 35-1 shots.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I just want to call out one person on this screen, though, and that's more from a fantasy perspective. Again, I don't think that anybody down here is necessarily going to have a chance to win, but Zane Smith last year started 34th and came all the way up to finish 19th, and that's some great points return for fantasy rosters for finish differential. So definitely a long shot, probably not going to be in contention to win, but I think Zane Smith could be one that qualifies deep in the field but is able to work his way forward.
All righty. So there you go. Time to go for our picks. So, and a lot of nice long shot picks to choose from. But first of all, you get the first pick this week, CJ. Who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick, top choice.
All right. So you're sticking with one of the second group of favorites, Reddick and Byron at 7-1. I am going to go with our boy Chase. So I'm going to go with Elliott at my first pick.
Well, that then leaves me Bowman, doesn't it?
It sure does.
I'll take him.
Okay. And look, I just think he's a good choice either way. And like I said, it's the bargain of the bunch. I'm taking Cindric.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one.
My 4 remaining, I have AJ. Well, AJ's too late now because we're into long shots now.
Yeah.
But I'd say Chastain. What's Chastain, 14 or 18? Oh, he's 14, right?
Yeah, I think Chastain is out of it as well.
Yeah, he's out of it. So my last 2 are Busch and Buescher.
I was going to say, I think that leaves me Buescher. I'm a little bit higher on Chris just based on what he showed against SVG at Watkins Glen. So I think he'd be my choice.
All right. And I'll take Kyle Busch. So there you go. Reddick, Bowman, and Buescher for CJ. Elliott, Cindric, and Kyle for me, for moi. And that is going to wrap it up. So coming up next week, what do we have? Are we done with these super speedways, road courses, all sorts of weird configurations? Can we get to some regular NASCAR Cup racing?
If you want to call it regular, yeah, I guess it's regular. It's Phoenix.
Oh no. The site of the championship race.
Borderline regular. I wouldn't call it regular, but it just so happens to host the championship race, so probably falls in that category. I'm more anxious for getting to Las Vegas, Miami,
Miami,
Martinsville, places like that, which are next on the list, but we have to suffer through Phoenix first, unfortunately.
Yeah, boy, Miami's going to be a hell of a week. Talking about it's going to be a good week and a bad week. A good week because we're going to be excited about Homestead with these cars, and a bad week because it's going to just be another reminder that it's not the championship race this year. So that we got to go back to Phoenix again. All right. Anyway, there you go. That's going to wrap it up. Let us know what's on your mind, questions or comments, anything at all that's on your mind. You can also hopefully subscribe to the channel because that really helps to support us here. And that's always something that we hope that you'll do. You could share the video to your friends. That's also really good for our growth. And of course, you can like the video if you've already subscribed. All of that stuff really helps us out. So CJ, meanwhile, you're going to have your RotoWire report ready because I'm going to have my qualifying video on Saturday. And at that point, I'll be able to post your preview from RotoWire, which should be out on Friday, correct?
Correct. Rotowire.com will have the weekend preview for Circuit of the Americas sometime on Friday.
All right. Sounds good. And then next week, we'll preview the F1 season. Next week, right?
Next week,
as well as Phoenix. All right. So that's going to wrap it up. We'll see everybody here next time. And look for this man. He'll be on our weekly Playbook ATS podcast show, which is actually airing. We're recording this now at right about 2:00 Eastern on Wednesday. We record our Playbook ATS podcast show every Wednesday at 3:00. So CJ is going to be a special guest on that show next week. So we'll remind everybody on next week's show. Other than that, we'll talk some F1 or NASCAR. That's the next time you'll see CJ. And we'll see everybody also on the Playbook show coming up a little bit later today here on the Proline TV channel.